After only around a month and a half of practice, my new lineup managed to make it all the way to the elimination stage of the Shanghai Major. It didn't come easy though, as we often had many struggles such as burnout, multiple bouts of sickness, an assistant coach getting hospitalized, and having to cut our bootcamp due to a wrist injury. I want to walk you through our whole journey of how we went deep in the major, starting at day 1 when we just signed Towson. We had a straightforward plan. We have 2 months until the RMR. We're going to use these first couple of weeks by playing online tournaments to get some high quality data for analysis down the line. It allowed us to quickly figure out what we were going to need to improve before the RMR. And out of the 3 tournaments we played, we made 2 finals, winning 1, as well as losing badly in the 3rd tournament, getting knocked out in the 1st round. After that was over, it was time to begin intense preparation for the RMR. Here, the plan was to create reliable defaults that would be easy to modify to fit different opponents. Due to the tight time constraint, we've also chosen to focus more on set strats on both sides to minimise the learning curves for Flammers and Towson, as they were both playing completely new roles and in the process of mastering them as each day passed. Despite the very limited time budget, I've chosen a quite unorthodox strategy for our veto, and that is that we're going to play all 7 maps instead of 6. The goal of this is to become extremely unpredictable in vetoes and try and catch teams off guard with our preparation due to them not expecting certain maps. This paid off heavily in the elimination stage, as we were able to take away Passion UA's strongest map in Anubis, which led to them picking a less comfortable map in Inferno, which we were then able to take away and win the series 2-1. Had we lost this map, then most likely we would have gone on to lose 2-0, as we lost our map pick of Mirage quite heavily. This of course though has its trade-offs, as we had to dilute playing time over playing 7 maps instead of 6, but that also meant in best of 3s that we could win most vetoes by banning the other team's best map. In retrospect, I feel like it really did pay off, as we felt strongest in the best of 3 games, but as mentioned above, it meant fewer reps for players in their positions and less familiarity as well in things like utility and strats to remember. Trouble started during our online preparations, as we missed around 5 days during this stage due to us getting very ill. These 6 days ended up being the only days that we didn't practice since picking up Towson in the middle of September, excluding travel days of course. We really tried to invest all the days that we had to prepare for the RMR. Our online practice statistics ended up at just a 44% win rate, winning 21 of our 47 matches. At this point I felt we were very far away from having a chance to progress through the RMR and had many problems to fix. And though we were often playing games to practice rather than to win, our consistency was highly lacking as we were regularly out of sync and not fully understanding the goals of our defaults on both sides. The next stage for us was at the bootcamp, the chance to heavily fix our glaring holes from practice so far, and well, it was an utter disaster. On the second practice day of our bootcamp, Towson badly injured his aiming hand, which rendered him unable to play properly for the rest of the bootcamp. And this meant that we only had 4 days practiced out of the entire bootcamp, which lasted 10 days, with 2 of those only playing a couple of games due to Towson's wrist feeling uncomfortable again. In the end, we made the decision that he should leave it to rest and make sure it didn't become a longer term issue for him. And during these ruined practice days, we tried to make the most of them by dry running all our rounds and fixing our notes one by one to ensure that at least we became more prepared whilst we weren't able to play. One positive aspect from this was it went great from a mental side as we started to work with our new sports psychologist. We learned different methods to deal with stress and techniques to relax, and had talks about thinking positively before games. It was nice to be able to talk openly about the impact the mind can have, and everybody was fully focused on it with no distractions. This was also the first time that all our players met face to face, which helps us bond much more. The sports psychologist also suggested the idea that we play practice games with fake crowd noise from speakers, and that we should wear our own jerseys, which was an interesting experience that I would definitely repeat in the future. I also did a mock interview with Towson to get him used to the social media presence. I told him that we were going to post it online to add a little bit of pressure, but ultimately, we spared him. After we came back from the bootcamp, we only had 4 days to practice, and these didn't go particularly well either from a performance level, as we ended up with a 29% win rate on our practice games. So why were our practice results so poor? Well, we often focused on pure practice instead of playing to win. Plenty of games were just testing strategy, even though lots of other teams were trying really hard to counter us and react. And in the end, this was a benefit for us as it helped fine-tune things for officials. And here I could also feel lack of energy or hype creeping in for players, as we're exclusively only playing practice games for more than a month at this point. And this sometimes does happen, as a long streak of practice days can become very monotone. So to counter this, we tried to throw in some multiple fake officials with the environment that we talked about earlier. And I also had some ideas of creating some more scenarios in practice, such as having a different player being game leader, swapping positions, only attacking in one specific sort of area, that sort of thing, but mostly against lower opposition. But we lost so much practice time that we were unable to implement any of these. Days went by as we worked to resolve as many issues as possible, but you can never fix everything, and eventually the time comes when you have to move forward. And so we did. We set off for Shanghai to compete in the RMRs. So let's break down exactly what happened during these stages. Firstly, I have to mention some difficulties that we had at the major itself. And usually when a team does poorly, they talk about reasons for it. They get listed as being sore losers, and so mentioning these circumstances after a success is a way to help paint a picture of the regular struggles that most teams had for this event. The first issue for myself, and also many teams we talked to, ZTR, Volt and Flammus, is that we all suffered heavily from jet lag up until the 1-2 Falcons game in the RMR. And it was so bad that we were regularly messaging each other around 5 AM each morning, asking if we wanted to meet up at breakfast the moment it opened. And so for the first 6 days in Shanghai, we ate together at 7 AM and completely lost our energy around 3 PM every single day. Having this totally messed up schedule makes it impossible to synchronize with the rest of the team, and that means basically all evening production is completely ruined. Preparation was difficult, playing practice was difficult, and then even just going out together in the afternoons was dividing the team in half by those affected by jet lag and those not. Slend was also sick for the entirety of the bootcamp and then all of the major from start to finish. And unfortunately, after the RMR itself, myself, ZTR and IMD all became sick until the very end of the event, and even now whilst I'm recording this video. My assistant coach was so badly affected that during the opening stage of the major, he was hospitalized right up until the moment we departed, meaning that I was left to deal with all the preparation and theory almost alone, with some help from ZTR, who also has his own focuses to deal with. Going into the games at the RMR, firstly against Vitality, our nerves won, and after the game we talked a lot about having regrets and playing too predictably and without risk. Learning from this loss would serve as a reminder for the later games, and as always, I say at the RMRs going 1-1 is the best route for easier fixtures, so this wasn't the worst outcome. We were very disappointed with how we played, but going into the Eklot game, we were still very confident. It turned out that Eklot were one of the surprises of this event, and they were on match point multiple times against Fnatic to reach the opening stage, but just fell short. However, our game was a tale of two halves. Well, we played some excellent Counter-Strike on the CT side, often having some amazing reads and making good plays, and even though there were multiple occasions where they found the extra frags that they would never expect to make, our structure was outstanding and we found ourselves up at 11-5. And this is where everything went wrong. Even though we did a great job of not letting the comeback affect us during the moments, they won this game through some outrageous individual moments that I'm sure most of them will remember for the rest of their careers, and this one really stung. I rewatched this game afterwards, and tactically it felt like they weren't making the best decisions or reads, but individually we couldn't survive as 5 alive in the first 10 seconds due to Force's AWP. And then, in the close rounds, they found ways to win completely doomed situations, and then they saw it out. We had some talks afterwards that perhaps we went less risk orientated and stopped trying to win the game, and instead, that we expected the win to come to us. But overall, it felt like one of those games where the impossible happened, and today just wasn't going to be our day. Being 0-2 is a really scary situation to be in, especially now knowing that most likely we would need not only to win 3 games to get through, but 4, and also all best of 3s without losing a single time. I think our team talks during this event were extremely productive and involved everyone, and these often helped us mentally reset and get any difficult feelings out in the open. We supported each other and encouraged everyone to have their say. One sentiment I often echoed was that if we won our next game, every time we would play, our opponent would be coming from the back of a loss. And mentally, this could be a huge advantage. Having unity at this moment was an opportunity to start a comeback run. And I even mentioned that our Paris run started exactly the same way, where we also lost twice in Inferno, and then began our miracle run of winning 8 of the next 10 games, including losing the final to Vitality in front of a packed crowd and millions online in the final CS2 Major. The series started out horribly with our dependent Anubis continuing to show a downturn of form. We also lost to Unity in a practice game on Anubis whilst we were in China, and so we expected the pick, but I was so fully jet lagged again, and now with a new illness from Slend coming in, my preparation was at an all-time low, and we went into this game and got completely outplayed, meaning we were now 0-2 down, and a map down, on the verge of being eliminated in last place. The second map was very one-sided, even though I heard a stat afterwards that in the first 10 rounds, we lost to entry every single time, which probably reinforces how dominant we were on Vertigo. The third map was a bit of a blockbuster in a way on Ancient, but this was the first time this event that Flammus really showed up and dominated right when we needed him. On another day, Unity could have won this series for sure, and to lose to ourselves, BetBoom and Saw, I think this event ended for them in a hard way, and then they could have actually done some real damage. But from this moment on, Flammus in particular was outstanding. And in the game against Falcons, despite him having a quiet Vertigo, on the side of map Mirage he was again excellent. Vertigo for us, I think we had a very good game plan, and the pick itself was easy for us. We just weren't sure if they would ban it instead of Inferno, as we had lost it twice and it was their permaban. But they risked Vertigo, and Simple famously has barely touched the map, and Nuke, our lack of experience, made this seem way more one-sided than it was. with them winning 4 clutches to our 0, which turned so many close rounds into wins for them. Mirage though, we played exceptionally. Here I was worried that our lack of experience might be showing up, as Falcons arguably have the most experience of any team in World Counter-Strike combined. I talked a lot about needing to play to our strengths and be more unpredictable and taking aim duels when we get the moments to, rather than looking to outplay Falcons with teamwork. This was our advantage. And even though Simple was amazing this game, we outfragged them for most of it. And moments like this one from Vault caused a lot of frustration for them, which is an emotion I was hoping to provoke with the added pressure that they were feeling externally from fans. Overall though, I think we were just better on the day, and now we had insane momentum, which powered us through to an easy win against Sinners and set up a tough finale against an impressive Bet Boom. The main concern for this all or nothing game was that we had a 1 hour break between the Sinners game and the Bet Boom one, all whilst they sat there and watched us play our game to see how we were playing. And this was something I had in mind, and my prep in this one was to slightly alter lots of different details to make their preparation useless. This time we would lose an 11-6 lead on Ancient into an overtime loss, again putting us on the verge of elimination. But we've been living in the state of being on the edge for days now, and though we lost 9-3 on CT Nuke the previous day to Falcons, we came away with a lot of conclusions and small fixes, and this turned out to be not the punish pick that Bet Boom hoped for, as Towson and ZTR in particular were outstanding this game in a big team effort as we win 13-5. Everything at this moment becomes purely mental. My job was to keep us focused on playing 1 round at a time and staying as calm inward and outward as possible as part of my responsibility as head coach. I again also wanted to use the occasion against Bet Boom. This time, creating a gimmick round to help them feel the pressure of a final map decider. And here we see an instant window boost idea before they would ever expect it. Whilst we have a double lurking palace with the bomb. The first 4 kills that we get are all in the side or the back of the Bet Boom players. And from experience, this is when pressure really gets to you, as you basically lost the round due to communication being manipulated by the other team. I actually did a video that you can check out called How We Pulled Off a Miracle Comeback from 2-11, where we qualified to this RMR by winning from that situation on Mirage. So when this half ends 6-6 going to our CT side, we already have the experience of playing through the pressure in almost the same situation. There's been many tough losses that we have referenced again as motivation or to remind focus. From the Eclot game, we talk about playing to win no matter what the score was. And here we know how to grind out close games as well as potentially bring them back from terrible starts. The end result is a release of emotion, from the tough decision to remove Andu and bring in Towson, and then the setbacks with practice, putting extra doubts on if we had a chance to make it through. This was by far the highest pressure I've felt in many years, as I even labelled this as the biggest achievement in my career in a HLTV interview, due to the problems we had and the targets we set ourselves for that very few people believed we were capable of. From this moment on, we had momentum and confidence, which covered our flaws tactically against teams around or below our level. But against the better teams, we were exposed and outclassed. When we were eventually eliminated, this is where we needed to understand what we had achieved. For every player except for Volt and ZTR, this was their first experience of playing in front of a proper crowd, with 2,000 to 4,000 people in attendance for every single match that we played after the RMR. Our CT sides were very average this event, and I personally see this as a coach's job to fix, but ultimately, having a 7-map map pull and our lack of practice time meant that we were covering gaps with basic rules and lots of set rounds, rather than trying to learn how to properly react to different scenarios. We also saw that of the 14 maps that we lost, that 7 of them we got 7 rounds or fewer, which show we have lots to improve on for the future, to at least make these losses more competitive and give ourselves a chance of getting them over the line. Ultimately, we took shortcuts to try and cover up the lack of preparation that we had, and this will still take a couple of months to become stable and reliable. What I think also went well for us here compared to practice is the energy and motivation that we found. The team atmosphere was incredible. The desire to win was always there. The teamwork and selflessness shown was obvious to anyone watching that other teams might struggle with. My favourite moments this event have to be the 0-2 comeback, winning 4 best of 3s in a row, and that we won 6 of our 8 best of 3s, only losing to Na'Vi and an on-fire Mongols. Flamus was also the ultimate showman with the crowd, and the whole team loved every moment of it. We even found ourselves somehow as a crowd favourites against Na'Vi, which is a situation which may never happen again for us. And of course, the resilience our young players showed to be able to deal with all the pressure and fighting back after the nightmare start that we had. So what is the next stage? I think we've dealt with the steep learning curve the best way we can, but the shortcuts can't last forever, and now we need to use our practice to become more stable as a team. Our map pool needs a lot of improvement, and we need to be able to find results against the best teams with our new experience. We also need to rest properly during the break to set us up for potentially a very busy year next year, and learn to deal with the new expectations that we had due to our success. I would also like to put more focus on the mental side like we talked about at the bootcamp, continue to work hard, and we need to stay grounded and start the whole year again. I hope you enjoyed watching this video to get some insight into my team. This video is probably quite a bit longer than most we've done, but don't worry, it is more of a one-off than a sign of things to come. And I'll see you again in the new year.